Oh, guys, today I'm talking about my top 100 movies of all time. So this is a list I have contracted. I've actually updated this over time, and of course, this list is going to change as movies age poorly or age better over time. That always changes. This ranking always changes. For example, I made another video before this, but then we realized the movie was listed twice, and I moved another movie off the list that was at number 100 and moved some other movies up on the list. So we'll be starting the list. Number 100, Johnny English Strikes Again. So Johnny English Strikes Again, I think it's the second best of the Johnny English movies. I think they're all pretty great movies and all hilarious movies. Basically, it is a spoof and parody of spy movies, like another movie that's about a British spy series called Austin Powers. But Johnny English is basically more of like, let's just put all these funny stuff in the movie, and it's probably just the most hilarious stuff they can put in. It is, and definitely if you want to watch movies that are just funny and are just a good time to watch, these movies are for you. Yep. This movie also had the hilarious VR headset scene. It make fun of like technology and stuff, and it's movies about like more about the technology and stuff. And yeah, there's a lot of funny jokes and gags. And it's like some of the other it's like some of the other comedies. Sometimes some scenes are not funny, but sometimes they're like absolutely hilarious. So next movie is Independence. They actually still have. I'm probably going to get this movie on Blu-ray, probably pretty soon. Probably for, of course, the 4th of July. I'll probably rewatch the next movie on the list, which is of course Rocky 4. But Independence Day is a pretty great movie. It's basically it's basically a movie about alien invasions. There are lots of other good movies about alien invasions like Battle of Los Angeles and of course Edge of Tomorrow. But Independence Day is like the classic of alien movies. It is like the and of course its sequel sucks. We don't have to remind anybody, but its sequel sucks. But this movie is also very similar to another movie I used to watch as a kid, which is called Kirby Right Back at Ya, where I always liked watching that. And that movie is basically like Independence Day, but it's about Kirby. But it's Kirby version. And you also have this movie, which is just a pretty amazing movie. No wonder it made so much money at the box office, $306 million at the box office. A lot of people, yeah, it's a very much a classic. If you definitely love this country, it's definitely a classic. Next movie on the list is Rocky 4. So Rocky 4 is, of course, it's Rocky 4. It's basically when it comes to Rocky movies, it is the second best movie of the Rocky movies. In terms of execution, in terms of, basically, it's kind of like the one that everybody likes we watch the most is because it's Rocky 4. And I'll probably watch this again pretty soon because, of course, the 4th of July season is coming. So, yep, it is a pretty good movie. Rocky 4, basically a patriotic movie. Basically, well, it's pretty entertaining as well, like all the other main 4 Rocky movies. And yep, there we go. Next is the Johnny English, the first one. Yep, after he started, yep. Oh wait. But yep, Johnny English is a very funny and hilarious movie. I have seen all of these movies at least 2 to 3 or 4 times since I got them, since I've seen them on TV. These movies are all just very hilarious and funny movies. There's a lot of funny and great scenes in these movies, you know, and it's just like, as I explained in the last one. Next is, of course, Madagascar 2, the only Madagascar movie on this list. It's not the last animated movie on this list, obviously. Madagascar 2 is just very funny. It is probably the best in terms of storyline as well. But it's just the funniest Madagascar movie. It also had the great Moto Moto, which, of course, Moto Moto alone, I think, made this movie back into the spotlight and made people talking about this movie again because of how great and amazing Moto Moto is. But we're not going to talk about Moto Moto. We're talking about everything else. There's a lot of other very funny and hilarious scenes and moments in this movie that are also worth taking out as well. Next is Bloodshot. Bloodshot is a pretty fun movie. Hope I didn't click on that link about stars, but Bloodshot is a pretty fun movie. It is basically about this guy who's dead, but he comes back. He is reanimated with superpowers by this organization. He basically goes after these guys. He fights these guys. The fight scenes are pretty fun, and pretty entertaining to watch as well. And the movie is very quickly paced. It's not a slow movie like other movies. Longer movies kind of have a disadvantage on this list, unless it's like an Avengers movie or it's an epic movie like it was Avengers. I don't even have the Lord of the Rings on this list because I'm not gonna actively watch Lord of the Rings every year or two. Okay, these are movies I'm gonna actively watch like every year or so that I put on or I've seen lots of times. Next is Cars. Of course, this movie was a childhood favorite for mine. This and the second movie. The second movie I defend more of nostalgic means, but this is definitely better than the second movie. I think we can all agree on that one. This movie is basically a pretty fun movie, and yeah, a lot of people love this movie. There is actually a cult following now behind the Cars series, basically. I think the only other movies that have this type of cult following is Shrek and B Movie as well. I always loved watching this movie and its sequel. So yeah, the sequel is not on this list, so people won't have to get in pitchforks over Cars 2 being on this list. So next is the Lost World Jurassic Park. It's definitely my least favorite of the original Jurassic Park trilogy. Yeah, it's not number 3 because I love number 3. And of course, the first one is the best of all the Jurassic Park movies. World it was pretty great, but it was not as great as the first one. It is my least favorite Jurassic Park movie, excluding Fallen Kingdom. That movie just bad. Okay, but The Lost World Jurassic Park is a pretty amazing movie, and it's just dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. I watched these movies tons of times when I was a kid. This movie was just an amazing movie. Next is Predator. So Predator is a pretty good action movie. Arnold Schwarzenegger is great in this movie. I've seen this movie a couple of times already. And, yep, it's a pretty good and fun movie to watch. It's basically it's very similar to other movies as well, but nothing is really original in this. Every story is basically based off something. So, yeah, Predator, pretty good movie. Next is Venom. I'm surprised the movie is actually this low on this list. I might actually have to reorganize this list, but Venom, pretty good movie. It's a pretty good movie to watch, pretty entertaining movie. I loved watching this movie. I can't wait for its sequel, Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. I know September is 3 months away, but Venom 2 is very close. We finally be able to see the movie in September. Hopefully we'll make it with our, change to this movie's release date. Hopefully they don't do that again because we don't have. I don't think I'm gonna be able to wait another couple of months for Venom 2. And I know this movie is basically one of my favorite superhero movies. I think this is better than Spider-Man Homecoming. I think Venom is a better movie than Spider-Man Homecoming because Spider-Man Homecoming is. I already made a video about Spider-Man Homecoming aging very poorly. Next is Back to School. Another comedy I've seen very recently as of the last year. It's a pretty funny and entertaining movie. And yeah, considering I'm bringing it on this vacation I'm going on, I can't really rewatch it. I was going to rewatch it, but then we had to pick all the movies for the vacation. So I picked this movie so I can rewatch it again. Next is Alien. Of course, Alien is a pretty good movie. Yeah, it's also very scary as well. But yeah, it's a very scary, intenseful movie. I think out of all of the films, this one is probably some of these. It's one of the few that actually transcend. I'm gonna probably watch these movies around Halloween because I don't really have any horror movies that I really want to see. I also probably see A Quiet Place Part 2, which I also pre-ordered that movie as well. There. And yeah, I made this list because I waited until Nobody came out. I got that movie, and that movie came out. I pre-ordered that movie. I waited till I got that movie to see if it would be on the list. Next is Toy Story. Toy Story is just a classic movie. I think, yeah, it had to be on this list as well. So yeah, there we go about that one. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is a pretty good movie. A lot of good action scenes, but it's not my favorite Captain America movie. Civil War definitely is better, but it's still a pretty good movie regardless. Being on this list is already a pretty good indication that these movies are all good. Next is Bambi. Again, Bambi is basically on here because of nostalgia. I really liked watching this movie as a watcher when I was a kid. I've not seen Bambi in a while, but it's just on here because of nostalgia alone. Next is Jumanji. Jumanji, again, it isn't really as great as its two sequels. I love its two sequels. But this movie kind of did age poorly, but it's still pretty fun. I'll probably definitely rewatch this movie in the future, especially getting to rewatch movies when, of course, sequels come out and stuff. And I know they're making a fourth one, so yep, I'll definitely do a rewatches before the movies come out in theaters or something like that. Next is Joker. Joker was pretty. Yep, it's Joker. You know, I think it's better than many people give it. Some people say it's a masterpiece. Some people hate this movie. Joker, I think, is a pretty good movie and pretty good film. Joker had some pretty entertaining movie. And again, Joker is unlike most other these types of movies, these dramatic movies where it's more about it's so dramatic, blah, blah, blah. We only want to watch it once, but Joker is both entertaining and film. It's one of those for ground movies. I would expect this movie to go up on this movie's ranking. Next is Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph was a pretty fun movie. I've seen this movie like a lot of times since this movie came out. I always like video game movies, and this is one of the few And again, I have actual video game movies that I actually like that have came out since Wreck-It Ralph. But I used to like watching this a lot of times when I was younger, and this movie has always felt like it's a classic. So next movie is Bruce Almighty. So Bruce Almighty is basically and it's Jim Carrey. Okay, his movie. Jim Carrey's gonna be on this list many times. Okay, I wish Jim Carrey made more movies like his older movies, like Bruce Almighty. Okay, I bet if Jim Carrey made more comedic movies, we would have more. There would be like 20 or 40 Jim Carrey movies on this list. Just imagine all of the funny Jim Carrey movies we could have gotten if we didn't chase after the golden Oscar. But yep, this movie is pretty hilarious and pretty funny. Number 81, Star Wars Episode 3. I used to watch all the Star Wars movies a lot when I was a kid. I rewatched them again. Star Wars movies are all classics except for The Last Jedi and the sequel trilogy as a whole. Sequel trilogy, nope. No, sequel trilogy is not that great. I own all the sequel trilogy movies, but I'm probably not going to rewatch them anytime soon. So, next is Super Troopers 2. This movie is just very hilarious. I'm going to get on to watch this movie again someday. But yep, this movie is very, very funny. Very, very hilarious. But yep, that's basically it about Super Troopers 2. Next is Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So yep, the Planet of the Apes trilogy I think is a perfect trilogy. Kind of like several other trilogies. But Planet of the Apes is pretty good. The first one, you have a lot of good action scenes like in, where they fight against the humans and stuff, and they go to the forest, and they free all the monkeys. That's obviously the best part. But this movie is more about the plot and stuff. And you see, him evolve over time. Caesar evolve over time in this movie. He becomes more like his ape friends, and that's how the Rise, and that's why it's called Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And yeah, next we have Zombieland Double Tap. Pretty fun and entertaining movie, like the first one, but the first one is higher on this list. Yep, this movie was pretty great and a pretty good movie overall. Pretty fun movie overall. Next is The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight, of course. I've seen it a couple of times. The Dark Knight was a pretty good movie. I probably will have to come back to watch this movie again. I have a lot of movies again I have to come back to rewatch again, of course. But The Dark Knight, of course, I'm going to have to come back and rewatch this again. And it's just that's why I put it much lower on this list, because I have to rewatch this again, the Dark Knight trilogy. So, yep, there we go. Next is Captain Underpants, the first epic movie. When I was watching this movie, I was expecting this movie to be another, brand animated movie. But Captain Underpants is one of those rare movies where it's just so smart and articulated when it comes to its jokes and its comedic humor. Yes, a lot of jokes is fart jokes and comedic humor and poop jokes and fart jokes. But this is coming from a movie called Captain Underpants. I think if you're going to watch a movie called Captain Underpants, you're going to expect fart poop and poop jokes. There were even titles that are basically, the titles of some of the books are basically just poop and fart jokes. But yep, a lot of this movie is just absolutely funny. And I still laugh at the villain's name, which I just find hilarious that the villain, his name is Professor Poopy Pants, and he doesn't want people laughing at his name the whole time. Okay? And yeah, that's a pretty hilarious. This movie is just pretty funny as a whole. Next is First Blood, which is the first Rambo movie. Basically, Rambo is basically one of the. It's pretty amazing. Its sequels are not as great as this movie, but this movie is still pretty amazing. It's probably my favorite of the Rambo movies. I always call this one Rambo 1, too, as well. So, next is Wonder Woman, the 2017 one, not to do one, 2021. I didn't hate the sequel at all, but a lot of people do. A lot of people hate the sequel to Wonder Woman. I like this movie. It was pretty great. The action scenes, the fight scenes are pretty great. You know, I'll probably rewatch. I'm waiting until I get the sequel to rewatch this again. So, yep, there we go. Next is Iron Man. So, yep, I'll probably rewatch this when I start rewatching all the MCU movies again. Yep, even Black Panther, but not Captain Marvel. I'm not gonna give a single cent to Captain Marvel and Brie Larson's flat, wooden acting. But I'm not gonna buy Captain Marvel to rewatch all the MCU movies. Okay, but maybe I'll rewatch all the good ones, not For the Dark World and Age of Ultron again. But Iron Man, pretty good action scenes and pretty good CGI and everything like that. Next is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Of course, this movie is another classic movie. All the good things about the first one is said in the second one. Good action scenes, good characters, and good everything. It is a movie series to keep you entertained throughout the whole movie. And the spoilers of the third movie is very sad. Number 71 is The Mask. Of course, it's Jim Carrey at his finest. Why did Jim Carrey stop making funny movies? Is a question we'll never get to answer to. But this is another movie. I don't know why they didn't make a sequel of Jim Carrey. Nobody knows why. Nobody knows why Jim Carrey stopped making funny movies when that's what he's known for. But this is another classic Jim Carrey movie. And there we go about The Mask. Next is Zombieland. Of course, Zombieland. I will explain all the things I said about Zombieland 2 can be said about this movie as well. Next is at 69, Angry Birds movie. A lot of people hate this movie, kind of like several other movies further down the list, but the Angry Birds movie was actually a pretty funny and comedic movie. A lot of the scenes in this movie are pretty funny as well. You have a lot of pretty funny scenes in this movie. A lot of people hate this movie for some reason. I have this movie. It's pretty funny. I used to I watched this movie lots of times. I've seen its sequel a couple of times already now as well. This movie is just very funny as well. So, yep, there we go about the Angry Birds movie. Next is, of course, The Meg. The Meg is a very great sock movie. Very great movie. I know people hate this movie. There are people who hate this movie. And someone even hated the movie because there wasn't enough blood in the movie. Like, come on. It's a freaking sock movie. Okay? There was a lot of blood in this movie already, but it basically is about the Megalodon, the big, gigantic, massive sock, and the bigger the sock, the funnier it is. And that isn't as great as the original Jaws movie. It isn't as thrilling as that movie, but for 20 years of absence of Jaws movies and sock movies overall, this is a great refreshing turn. Definitely much better than the disappointment called 47 Meters Down. Next is Rocky. Of course, Rocky's on this list. It's a classic. Next is the first Ice Age. It's not the last Ice Age movie to be on this list. And it's definitely much better. I think out of the first 3 Ice Age movies, this is my least favorite to rewatch. But it's still pretty funny as all the other 3 Ice Age movies. Next is Die Hard. Die Hard is a pretty good action movie. We have a lot of good movie parts. A lot of good parts of this movie. A lot of great action scenes as well. And I'm surprised I've not watched this movie until literally this year. Or was it last year? It was. I think it was this year. I didn't watch this movie until this year. And yeah, Die Hard is a pretty amazing action movie. Next, of course, we have Kung Pao. Oh my god, Kung Pao is hilarious. Okay? If you want to see a funny parody, Kung Pao is a movie for you. The only problem is this movie is very hard to get, basically. it is very hard to get this movie. It is very hard to buy this movie. But this movie is for free on YouTube. So I think if you want to watch this movie, just watch this movie either on Hulu or on YouTube. It's better than buying this money for $40 to $50 like I did on Blu-ray. Next is, of course, The Terminator. The Terminator 1 and 2 are basically quintessential action movies. Terminator, pretty good movie. Pretty great action scenes. The Terminators come back to basically stop people to kill the Go, and basically he has to fight the Terminator. And all the scenes of the Terminator fights, like the cops and stuff, are pretty funny as well. Next is Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Pokemon, I used to be a big fan of Pokemon, but of course you all know what happened to Pokemon. But compared to Sword and Shield, Pokemon Detective Pikachu was much better than Pokemon Sword and Shield. This movie had a lot of good action scenes. It actually made me feel like a kid again watching all those older Pokemon movies. And yeah, Detective Pikachu also was pretty funny as well. Next is Jumanji: The Next Level. Jumanji: The Next Level is just pretty amazing. As the action movie and comedy. There was a lot of funny scenes. You have these new characters which make a new dynamic, which is just very, very funny and very, very original. I don't know why, but this movie came with a DVD combo pack, but the first one did not, so I probably gonna watch this one more than the second one, obviously. Next is John Wick Chapter 3. Definitely my least favorite of the 3 John Wick movies, but John Wick Chapter 3 is still a pretty good movie, pretty good action scenes. It is basically still a John Wick movie. So, yep. Next, we have 1917. This movie is on this list. I like war movies. This is one of my favorite war movies, as well as the actual World War One movie. They didn't really show many great action scenes about war, but it's a pretty good movie, and it's a pretty beautiful movie. Still has some pretty good action scenes as well in this movie, but it's really more about the thriller. It's more about the thrilling aspects of the movie, not about the. And they made it, and it's one of the few movies where it's not about the action. It's more about a thriller than an action movie. That's why it's not even listed as an action movie. So next is Police Academy, another pretty funny movie. Its sequels suck, but this movie's still pretty funny. So yep, that's Police Academy. Next is Hunger Games. I've seen this movie a couple times. It's pretty good movie, and yeah, its sequels are good as well. But yeah, I've probably seen this one the most. Next is the most recent addition on this list, and that is Nobody. Nobody is basically a John Wick movie, not about John Wick, but about this new guy who is he's basically a nobody. That's basically the title of the movie. He's a nobody. He is just an average person. And now he basically, he helps this woman being harassed by a group who becomes the target of a vengeful drug lord. That basically just describes the whole movie as a whole. Okay? If you like John Wick, you'll like Nobody, essentially. If you love the John Wick movies, I love the John Wick movies, and of course now I love this movie as well, like John Wick. Next is Ghostbusters. Again, I don't know why I missed out on Ghostbusters this whole time. It is a pretty funny movie. It has pretty good scenes in it, and I think this movie inspired Luigi's Mansion, obviously, because we don't have a real Ghostbusters game, so we have Luigi's Mansion, which basically is Ghostbusters. It's a pretty funny movie as well. Next is the Angry Birds movie 2. Yep, I got the sequel. Yes, of course. I like the first movie, and the second movie I think is even better than the first movies. The jokes are better, the scenes are better, and everything about this movie is better than the first movie. The first movie, I still like the first movie. It was on the Swiss at 69, but its sequel was definitely much better. Now these are basically like the quintessential movies. Number 53 is Rampage. Yep, Rampage is only at 53. That is shocking. But Rampage is basically, if you like the Godzilla movies, I love the Godzilla movies. I was like, why isn't Godzilla 2014 like this movie? Why isn't Godzilla like this movie? This movie is what a monster movie, what Godzilla 2014 should have been. Then, like, this movie is just entertaining and fun way throughout. It's entertaining and fun throughout. It's also based off a video game that I used to play as a kid, so it's some nostalgia value with this movie alone. And there we go. Rampage is on this list. Next is Ice Age The Meltdown. Of course, this movie has to be on the list. The first three Ice Age movies are basically just classics of their own. The first three Ice Age movies are basically... I think this will have left the Ice Age movies as a trilogy. Because as a trilogy, you have had another perfect trilogy on your hands. Ice Age The Meltdown has a lot of comedic and funny scenes. It has probably my favorite song in the Ice Age movie, the food song. And also you have, of course, the Scrat scene at the end where he gets rejected by the god of all acorns. Next, number 51, we have Aquaman. Aquaman, I really like this movie except for Amber Heard. Yep, we all know why I don't like Amber Heard. But I'm not gonna be like that one person and ruin this movie because Amber Heard's in it. Like, I'm not like those other people on the internet. I don't think she should be in the sequel, but this movie came out before the whole controversy, so, and yeah, this movie's pretty great. A lot of good action scenes. Which I thought someone else I know likes this movie, but doesn't like the action scenes. I like the action scenes in this movie, especially the scene where he fights where at the end where he fights all the fists. Again, the CGI is not that great, but I like how he gets all the fists and animals on their side, and the animals all rebel against the other guy. Next is Pixels. Pixels is a pretty great movie. I don't know why people hate Pixels so much. I don't know why people hate Adam Sandler so much. Yeah, some of his movies are very bad, but this movie was not bad. The action scenes are pretty great. It has a lot of video game references. I don't really play video games that much anymore, but I still like this movie. A lot of video game references, and of course, a lot of funny scenes. Of course, this movie is going to be on this list. And of course, this movie has nostalgia value to it, because the first time I seen it was when I was around, 15 or so. So it's a nostalgia value to it. Next is another nostalgia pick, and that's Spirit the Stallion of the Chameleon. I know this movie's getting a sequel, but I'm not really that excited for the sequel. But this movie, I always liked watching this movie. I like the soundtrack of the movie, and I like, the scenes where the horses, rebel against the humans and stuff like that. And yeah, there you go about Spirit. Number 48 is Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 is not as great as the first Deadpool, but it's still pretty funny and it's basically just more Deadpool. Why are they not making a full Deadpool movie is just my support. It's because of Disney. I hate you, Disney. Next is Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. It is a reboot to a movie that I've never seen before. And I've seen the original movie after I seen this movie. This movie was pretty funny and just pretty amazing. You have these characters that are sucked into a video game, and it's just pretty funny. So, yeah. Next is National Lampoon's Vacation. So, National Lampoon's Vacation is a pretty funny and comedic movie. Basically, they drive to this place called Wally World, and basically, everything goes wrong. It's just pretty funny as a whole. Next is Jurassic World. Jurassic World, it's dinosaurs. Dinosaurs. I think I've seen this movie too many times because one of my relatives on the vacation kept putting this movie on loop. Like, come on, there's other movies we can watch besides Jurassic World, okay? It's not the only movie in this world. But this movie is still pretty entertaining and fun. It is one of the few movies I've seen in the theaters. So, there we go, Jurassic World. Next is Aliens. So, Aliens, of course, this is the movie I was talking about. It's more about the action and scenes and stuff and the fight scenes. Once I watch the Alien movies again, I'll, of course, watch this one. I'm not going to watch Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection. We're not going to watch those disgraces to the Alien franchise. But I'm definitely going to watch the first Alien and Aliens and Predator definitely around Halloween time. Again, next movie is Midway. A lot of the critics hate this movie for being historically accurate. Why? This movie was pretty fun, pretty entertaining, a lot of cool visual effects, a lot of good fight scenes in the military, World War II, And yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorite World War II movies ever made. Yep. Because it's historically accurate and it's fun and entertaining. It's definitely, and it's less about the dramatic scenes, aka Saving Private Ryan, the 3 hour movie called Saving Private Ryan, which that's why that movie is not on this list, because Saving Private Ryan is long, and this movie is less, I think less than 2 hours, as well around 2 hours, compared to Saving Private Ryan's 3 hours. Next is Thor Ragnarok. It's funny. It has a lot of good action scenes. It's Thor, and it has good music. Do I have to explain anymore? Next is Caddyshack, another comedic classic. It's pretty funny. And of course you have the best end scene where they blow up the entire golf field to defeat one golfer. The golfer scenes are basically also some of the best scenes in this movie. That's like the whole best parts of the movie at the gopher scenes. Those are the best parts. It's like the scratch scenes and ice aids. And they cut off to the gopher scenes and the non-gopher scenes as well. Next is Speed. Of course, Speed is on. This is another new addition to his list. I've seen this movie, and it's about this guy who's on a bus and he has to stop the guys from, for the guy from blowing up the bus. They made a sequel to it, and it's also very similar to another movie, Die Hard. It also has Keanu Reeves in it as well. So next movie is Crazy Rich Asians. Of course, this movie is pretty funny and it's also pretty dramatic. Also, do not watch this movie in the car unless you actually have a DVD player that can actually hear them speak, or else you'll be hearing nothing, because for some reason this is the only movie that had that exact problem with. None of the other movies I have had that problem with. It's only this movie. I don't know why. There was problems with the audio on the DVD version of this movie, but apparently there is. But even then, this movie is still pretty great. The only problem is the DVD audio problem, which I have to talk about that as well. So yeah, pretty good movie, pretty funny movie, definitely a classic among movies. But I don't want to see In the Heights, because that's a musical. Musicals are not funny. Next is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Why isn't comedy listed here? This movie can fit into 4 genres, basically, comedy as well. But Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is basically a breath of fresh air into the superhero genre. It's an actual animated superhero movie that's actually good. Sorry, Incredibles, you're not good. And I'll always remind people that I don't like The Incredibles. But Spider-Verse, this movie sucked me. I was like, oh yes, this is going to be another Spider-Man movie. It's not going to be that great, because it's Spider-Man Homecoming, pretty overrated. Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, it's pretty overrated. But this movie came out, it's smart, it's new, it's entertaining. The art style is pretty amazing. And of course, you have the best Spider-Man character, Spider-Ham. They should just make a whole TV series about Spider-Ham. Or a whole movie about Spider-Ham. Why are we getting a Spider-Man gun movie? We're going to have a Spider-Ham movie. That would be the best movie ever. No kidding. Next, we have Captain America Civil War. Of course, this movie's on this list. Civil War, probably one of the best action scenes in all of Marvel. The airport sequence in the movie. And of course, I have a lot of other good action scenes in the movie. The movie is long, which again, sort of deterred this movie from this list. But it's still pretty fun and entertaining throughout. It also leads to that great action scene in this movie. Next movie is Shazam. I like watching this movie a lot. It's funny, good action scenes, and that's a fun movie to watch. Why can't DC make more movies like Shazam? I don't know what went wrong after Shazam. Birds of Prey sucked. Wonder Woman 1984 is not as good as its original. What went wrong after this movie, DC? I have not seen Stack Status this week, but that movie was supposed to come out before Shazam. So, there. Next is, of course, John Wick. It's John Wick. It's the first one. It's pretty fun, entertaining, and yeah, it's gun fu. That's basically John Wick. And so it's pretty entertaining movie as like the other 2 movies. Next is, of course, now I'll talk about Star Wars again. That's Return of the Jedi. I used to watch the original Star Wars trilogy lots of times when I was younger. Good action scenes, and fun character, and it's a pretty good movie. The only problem is that big blob at the beginning of the movie they have to fight Jabba the Hutt. But other than that, it's a pretty good movie. Next, of course, B movie. B movie is just they're like one of the funniest movies one of the funniest movies. It was funny when I was a kid, and it's still funny now. It's just one of those movies. Well, it's funny when I was a kid. I used to find this was like one of the funniest movies I found when I was a kid. And of course, like I want to get the B movie again because I thought this movie was funny. It was only like $3 at the store. Literally only $3. I was like, what's probably I'm gonna get the B movie again. And it's just a pretty funny, hilarious movie as well. So next is Wire Wire, another movie. Basically gonna describe this movie like the B movie. Wire Wire is a pretty hilarious movie. It's another Jim Carrey, pretty great Jim Carrey movie, especially after that disappointment called The Cable Guy. And basically, it's just pretty hilarious, especially when he's not able to lie anymore. That's when the movie really gets funny. Next is, of course, Jurassic Park 3. A lot of people hate this movie for some reason. I like this movie. Again, I think it's probably my childhood speaking, really. I bet if I did not grow up on Jurassic Park, I bet I would have not liked this movie as much as I did. I love watching this movie. I love watching the second one and the first one. And yeah, there we go, Jurassic Park 3. Now in the top 30. Top 30, and that is John Wick Chapter 2. John Wick Chapter 2 is, I think, the best of the 3 John Wick movies. It had the best action scenes of the 3 movies, especially the pencil scene. You know, where he beats the guys with the pencil and stuff. And it's just like the best action scenes in the John Wick movies. Next movie, number 29, is Tommy Boy. Tommy Boy, I've seen this movie at least 2 to 3 times. It is just pretty hilarious throughout the whole movie. And it's just a pretty hilarious and funny movie throughout the whole time as well. It's not the last comedy movie on this list. Next movie is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and 2 are probably some of the funniest Marvel movies ever. It's just very funny, very entertaining. It has good action scenes and good comedy as well. And yeah, it's a pretty good movie as well. So number 27, we have Spider-Man Far From Home. I really love this movie a lot. I think this is probably my favorite Spider-Man movie besides Spider-Verse. Pretty funny movie. You know, a lot of funny movie. You have some funny parts. You have a lot of good action scenes. You have this very great villain in Mysterio. Probably my favorite Spider-Man villain probably right now. And overall, it's a pretty good movie. Definitely much better than its prequel, where it's unlike Spider-Man Far From Home, the prequel was actually not as great as this movie. Next is, of course, 300. It's 300, man. What else do I have to explain this movie? It's 300. It's epic. And it's simple, and it's basically an epic movie. Next, of course, we have our Dragon Ball movies. We have Dragon Ball Super Broly. Of course, it's Dragon Ball, you know. And this movie is more about the actual fighting instead of the story. And it's very similar to it's very much like the original Broly movie, but they actually gave Broly an actual backstory. But there's still at least that 30-minute fight you get with Goku, Vegeta, and Broly, and Gogeta, and all the characters against Broly. So you still get that big fight scene at the end of the movie. So next is The Great Outdoors, another comedy classic. Of course, I don't have to tell you why. I always thought this movie was really funny. I watched it when I was a kid, and I always thought the scene with the bear was very funny as well. Number 23, we have Ready Player One. Ready Player One is a pretty great movie. I know some people who hate this movie, especially because they say, oh, it's boring, blah, blah, blah. But you really have a scene at the end where they fight against like Mecha Godzilla, and the guy summons like there's this massive scene that they fight like Mecha Godzilla, and you have like the Iron Giant. I'm not seeing the Iron Giant, but you have the Iron Giant versus Mecha Godzilla. Something that would never happen in a movie is an actual scene in a movie. They also have a sequel to the book as well. So there we go. Next is The Matrix. Of course, The Matrix is a classic. This is one of those movies that I actually didn't like at the first viewing of the movie. I didn't really like this movie at the first viewing, but after subsequent viewings later, this movie, of course, was one of those movies that skyrocketed up on this movies, and now we're at number 22. Number 21 is Terminator 2. It's Terminator 2. It's epic. It's pretty much an amazing movie. Next, of course, we have the classic Jaws. Jaws is just a classic. I don't have to really explain to you why Jaws is a classic. Next is Finding Nemo. Finding Nemo has always been my favorite animated movie of all time. I love animals and fish, and I always loved watching this movie as a kid. It's a pretty good movie, basically, as all. Also, it has some pretty funny scenes in this movie as well. Number 18 is Godzilla vs. Kong. I love my Godzilla movies. What do I tell you? Godzilla vs. Kong is massively entertaining. It is. You have the final fight scene is probably one of my favorite fight scenes in any kaiju movie, probably besides the final fight scene with Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah of any kaiju movie. Number 17 is Dragon Ball Z: The Battle of the Gods. Of course, you have, some funny moments, but you have the great fight scenes as well. And, yep, there you go about Dragon Ball Z: Battle of the Gods. It's Dragon Ball. What else do you expect? Number 16, we have Deadpool. Deadpool is just funny. It's just Deadpool. What do you expect? He's Deadpool. Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's has good action scenes, and it's just... And yeah, they do go over Deadpool's backstory as well, which is what most of this movie's about. But it's still a pretty funny movie. Next, of course, we have Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. Ace Ventura: Pet Detective is a pretty funny movie. It is Jim Carrey, of course. He is... I think Ace Ventura movies are his best movies. They're his funniest movies ever made. This movie and its sequel, I think, are probably the funniest of Jim Carrey's movies. Next movie, we have Avengers: Endgame. Like Avengers: Infinity War and the first Avengers, this is pretty much a pretty great movie to watch. And the only reason why it's not higher is because it's 3 hours long. The runtime is the reason why it's not in the top 10. And Brie Larson. Number 14, we have Godzilla: King of the Monsters. Yep, this is my favorite Godzilla movie. I think this is probably the second most underappreciated movie of 2019, and that's saying something. I love this movie. It's basically everything you want out of a Godzilla movie, and King Kong, Godzilla vs. Kong as well. This and Godzilla vs. Kong is everything that we should have had out of the first Godzilla movie. Okay, it's all been more. My biggest criticism with the first Godzilla movie was it wasn't enough about Godzilla. It wasn't enough about Godzilla. We needed more Godzilla in the movie. Okay. Godzilla only appearing for 10 minutes of the movie is not acceptable. And they fixed those problems in the sequels. Godzilla: King of the Monsters and Godzilla vs. Kong. I hope they make more Godzilla movies because of course there's a lot more monsters they can introduce into the Godzilla movies. I think Destroyers will be introduced as well. Gigan and of course Space Godzilla be introduced as well. Those are the 3 ones I would want to see on the big screen. Next is Airplane. Yep, it's basically it's basically one of the funniest movies ever made. Do I even have to explain how funny this movie is? It is basically the classic comedy, the original classic comedy, basically. Next is Guardians of the Galaxy. Yep, this has a lot of good comedy, action, and good scenes as a whole. So yep, Guardians of the Galaxy is at number 11. Number 10 is Uncle Buck. Another classic comedy. Basically, Uncle Buck is just very hilarious and funny movie. Of course, I've seen Uncle Buck, I think, more times than Airplane because I had Uncle Buck on DVD longer than Airplane. But both Uncle Buck and Airplane are basically just amazing comedy movies. Next is Ice Age: Dawn of the Dinosaurs. I love watching this movie. First of all, it's funny, it's Ice Age, and it has dinosaurs. And it also introduced the best Ice Age character of all time. That Buck is the reason why this movie is higher than the other 2. He is the reason why this is the best Ice Age movie. It is because of Buck. And that is the reason why. he is on Ice Age Dawn of the Dinosaurs is my favorite Ice Age movie. They kid kind of ruined him in Ice Age 5, though, but Ice Age 5 had far worse characters, including the Llama. Next is Star Wars. We're just going to talk about both of these movies at once. Star Wars Episode 4 and Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back and New Hope. Okay, this is the original Star Wars movies. Good action scenes, good characters, and good story, and a overall good movie. So, yeah. Next movie on the list is Ace Ventura When Nature Calls. This is also made by the same director as Kung Pao, as well, which was also far lower on this list. Ace Ventura When Nature's Call is basically probably my favorite Jim Carrey movie. And is there another comedy movie higher than this? But I'm not going to spoil the list for you. But Ace Ventura When Nature Calls is, of course, my favorite, actually my second favorite Jim Carrey movie. There was a movie that came out in 2020 with a certain blue hedgehog in it, and that's higher than this movie. But Ace Ventura When Nature Calls is just a very funny movie, and definitely is a movie that I like watching when I'm not feeling too good. Next movie is a pair of movies, Avengers and Avengers Infinity War. These movies are pretty amazing, and the reason why Endgame is not of these other two movies is, of course, Endgame's runtime. Both of these movies are done within like 2 hours and 40 minutes. Both of them are pretty great. Basically, they're action packed because, of course, you already know all these characters, and it's basically mostly about the action scenes. It's mostly like, oh yeah, they get together and they fight the big bad guy of the movie. Okay, and definitely there is, of course, Age of Ultron, but I will explain. I don't like Age of Ultron. Number 3 is, of course, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park is just a classic movie. Of course, it's going to be number 3. I only have to explain it on my greatest movies list, why Jurassic Park is at number 3. Number 2 is Sonic the Hedgehog. This is, of course, a very controversial choice by anybody. Oh, Sonic the Hedgehog is number 2. I love Sonic games, okay? I have basically played every Sonic game. I'm looking forward to new Sonic games. The new Sonic games include Sonic Colors for Sonic Colors Ultimate for the Xbox One and Nintendo Switch. I don't know what. I'm still debating over which version I want to get, but Sonic the Hedgehog the movie. You have, of course, the best Dr. Eggman. I think there was no other person that could play Dr. Eggman. Dr. Robotnik, same character. Even calls him Dr. Eggman later in the movie because his robots look like eggs, which I find pretty hilarious. But Dr. Robotnik slash Eggman, Jim Carrey, I think, is the only Eggman that would work. Okay, only person. They could have picked any actor, but of course they picked the best choice for Dr. Eggman, Dr. Robotnik. They picked the best choice for Dr. Robotnik. And of course, you have, of course, the storyline. Some people say, oh, this movie's too generic. It's too similar. It's a freaking Sonic movie. I'm very excited for its sequel. Oh, I think it's my most anticipated movie of 2021. Yep, my most anticipated movie is a sequel, not 2021, 2022. My most anticipated movie is a sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog, and of course John Wick 4, and Jurassic World, and Dominion, which that was delayed as well. So yeah, those are my most anticipated movies of 2021. It's Sonic 2. Oh yeah, I think Spider-Verse 2 is also coming out on that year too. So Spider-Verse 2, Sonic 2, and those two will come in the same month. Jurassic World Dominion and John Wick 4. All those movies are coming out on the same year. All those movies, it's going to be a pretty big year for movies. And number 1, this movie does not have a sequel for some odd reason. It's Alita Battle Angel. So, unless they make an actual Dragon Ball movie, this will probably be number 1. Unless they actually make an actual good live-action Dragon Ball movie that isn't complete garbage, like they have made it, this movie basically fills the void of the unneeded anime movie, that we don't have yet. The unneeded anime movie that we didn't have yet. We didn't have. I don't know what word I'm saying. It's 2 in the morning. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying now. It's in 2 in the morning. But the unneeded anime movie, which was Dragon Ball Evolution, Dragon Ball Evolution, yeah, I was talking about that one. Unneeded anime movie. But this movie was needed because it felt a large hole. We don't hardly have any movies based off animes. And yes, they'll admit most of the live action anime movies suck, except for this one. This is the only good one. And this movie is a masterpiece compared to every other anime movie and every other movie that's ever been made. How is this movie does not have a sequel? That's my first question. Why doesn't this have a sequel? Sonic immediately got a sequel. Immediately has a sequel coming. But Alita, we're still 2 years in, and there's still no sequel to the movie. It's just there's no sequel. Why is there no sequel to the movie? But now let's talk about the movie itself. Okay, this movie was more about setting up the universe. I bet they made a sequel more about the action scenes. Action, like, the second Matrix or something like that. I think it will be much better. But this movie, I think I've seen this movie like 10 to 15 times since the movie came out. I think maybe I was a little obsessed when this movie came out. But it has probably one of the greatest, it probably has the greatest, probably one of the best film soundtracks in all movies. Probably only being behind, like, some of the other movies as well. Only movies being similar is like Jurassic Park and the Avengers and stuff. But you also have the all the action scenes in this movie are basically just that's some of the best action scenes. You have the first action scene, second one where he fights Gluiska. First one is against the android characters, that's what the video is called. They actually have names, but. And of course, the third scene was the motorball scene. And that's the longest scene. It's like 10 minutes. And I've seen that scene probably like 20 to 30 times. That's the best action scene in any movie. And you also have the final scene where he kills Gluiska. And they sort of made a sequel to this already. Why don't we have a sequel to it? People are saying that there's sort of been a sequel in 2021. But if there is a sequel being developed, I think they're going to, hopefully, they announce it soon rather than later. But yeah, if ever we did get a sequel this year, it would probably been my most anticipated movie of the year, or what's coming next year. It would be pretty close between Alita 2 and Sonic 2. It would be extremely close. I mean, but yeah, there you go. So I made my list of most favorite movies at 2 in the morning. Yep. You can already tell at the end of this video that I need sleep. So that's basically it. Goodbye.